Shocking, I know, but things haven't changed much in Call of Duty Mobile Season 10. But hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Coming up, I'll share my personal favorite AR that's been tearing up the meta for a while now, and I've been using it with a rather unusual attachment that you might find interesting. Stick around to see which weapon claims the #1 spot and why its dominance is starting to get a bit stale. Let's get into it. As always, in 10th place, we have our DMRs. The SKS is basically an infinite 2-shot kill weapon with infinite 1-shot headshots paired with incredible stability. The Type 63 is basically a more aggressive version of the SKS with less advantageous leg multipliers, making hitting the leg suboptimal for the lethality of the gun. Also, note that the Type 63 doesn't have range performance as strong as the SKS. And lastly, one of the most broken guns in the game, the XPR, which requires pinpoint accuracy and a quite particular playstyle to be efficient with. It has 31 meters of 1-shot kills in the chest, arms, and head. It carries that 1-shot capacity in the head and chest up to infinity, and it can 2-shot kill no matter where you hit the enemy if it doesn't get you a 1-shot kill. To add to that, it's originally a sniper, and as a sniper, it has one of the most stupid mobilities, which makes it great as an aggressive sniper. Here are the builds for these 3 guns. At number 9, we have our only LMG on the list, which is the MG42. It's the strongest flex LMG, carrying great mobility, insane BSA, and one of the fastest fire rates in the game. And as if that wasn't enough, it has no recoil, it has a clean iron sight, and damage, despite being low, it gives us a great time to kill because of the absurd fire rate. Overall, it can be used in pretty much every situation as long as you don't try using it like an SMG. Here's the gunsmith for the MG42. At the 8th spot, we have our 2 classic long-range ARs, the LK24 and the KN44. They're technically as good for long-range gunfights, but the LK24 is slower and more stable, while it's the opposite for the KN44, being a bit more flexible, making it easier to use in close and mid-range thanks to the faster mobility. Both of them can kill within 4 shots up to about 60 meters, giving you a time to kill of around 270 milliseconds, but they're also able to kill within 3 shots in their first range if you manage to hit the head and chest. It might not sound like something that would happen quite often, but since those 2 guns are extremely stable, if you have decent crosshair placement, you'll get a surprisingly high number of 3-shot kills. One more thing, the LK24 has 1.35 of bullet impact, making it quite strong for throwing off your enemy's aim. Here's the gunsmith builds for both of these guns. At the 7th spot, we have our great flex AR, the Type 19. It's not the best statistically speaking, even though it's not far from the best. It has good range, good mobility, a decent magazine size, and BSA, but it has no recoil and a free slot for a red dot, giving it the advantage of being extremely easy to use, thus making the practical performance particularly good. It's my favorite AR to use right now, with a holographic sight and a blue dot reticle. If you want to trade ease of use for better stats, you can pick up the AK-117 and the Peacekeeper MK2. The AK-117 is a strong contender with good range, but suffers from a random recoil pattern. The Peacekeeper MK2 boasts an impressive 39 meters of 4-shot kill range and fast mobility, but its recoil takes some getting used to. Here are the gunsmith builds for these guns. At the 6th spot, we have our 2 easy-to-use flex SMGs, the PP-19 Bison and the PDW. The PDW is extremely popular in the EU region, while it's not as much represented in other regions. It has 26 meters of 4-shot kill range, paired with good mobility in general. The overall handling of the gun is good, with little to no recoil, a large mag, and thanks to the buff it received this season, it now has a fairly quick reload time. The main issue is that the damage drops from a 4-shot kill to a 6-shot kill after 26 meters, making the performance drop incredibly annoying. The PP-19, on the other hand, has a much more linear performance drop, making it easier to judge. And that's exactly what we need since the Bison is basically the best weapon for new players. It's incredibly easy to use and exploit. It has no recoil, it has a clean iron sight, really fast mobility, a large mag, and the range is decent with damage that is consistent throughout the body thanks to the large caliber mag. As we always say, it's the weapon you want to give to your friend new to the game, if it wasn't for the BP50. Here's the gunsmith for the PP-19 Bison and for the PDW. At number 5, we have two weapons that have quite the opposite philosophy, the QQ9 and the GKS. The QQ9 is basically the HVK30 of SMGs, being decent everywhere, but having a potentially faster time to kill if you're able to hit the chest or head. It's incredibly strong in S&D thanks to that potentially faster time to kill, but in response, it's not as easy to use because of the mag size being quite small with 30 bullets. But thanks to the buff it received, the reload time is now way faster, making ammo management significantly better. On the other hand, the GKS is hard to use, not because of ammo management, but because of the recoil pattern and the slow fire rate. And the screen shake might throw you off a bit, but the 3-shot kill potential is actually really good and it gives you 200 milliseconds of time to kill. The mobility is pretty good and it's also a pretty decent gun for S&D. Here are the gunsmiths for these two. At number 4, we have our two CQC SMGs, which are the Fennec and the CX9. To keep it quick, because you already know these two for sure, a little over 20 meters of exploitable range. Slightly faster time to kill for the Fennec, but the CX9 is easier to exploit. The iron sight might be an issue, so we're putting a red dot on both. Mobility is fast, but not as fast as the Flex SMGs for strafe speed in general, which is not an issue since we pretty much always slide or jump before or during a gunfight with these. And one small tip, avoid hitting the legs as much as you can because leg multipliers are awful on these two. Here are the gunsmiths for these two SMGs. In the third spot, we have the Odin, essentially a full auto SKS. It's a slow, challenging weapon to use and requires skill to exploit fully, meaning you're gonna have to have good tracking and precision to take full advantage of this gun. But in that narrow performance window, medium to long range, it's unmatched in the game. It might be a bit overrated for ranked play due to the fast pace, but it still performs exceptionally well if you're an anchor player or a solid position holder. Here's the gunsmith for the Odin. In the second spot, we have the HVK30. It's the only weapon that can technically match or even outperform the BP50 in certain situations, particularly in 1v1 scenarios. However, when it comes to taking multiple gunfights in quick succession, the HVK30's only real flaw becomes apparent, its mag size. But with solid ammo management, you can absolutely use the HVK30 to outgun BP50 users, opting for a high risk, high reward weapon instead of the easier, more forgiving option. The MIP light barrel is great for today's meta pace-wise, but if you're fine with being off-pace compared to BP50 users, you can use the marksman barrel instead. It'll slow you down a lot, but the range you gain from that truly makes the HVK30 a beam at long range. Here's the gunsmith for the HVK30. And lastly, at the number 1 spot, we have the infamous BP50, able to outgun a Fennec in close range and a Type 19 in mid-range. And because of how easy it is to use, it wouldn't be too complicated to gunfight at 50 meters if it wasn't for the BSA and damage. It's basically the easiest AR to use in the game right now, while also having some of the craziest stats. It's not even fun to use because it isn't challenging in any way. Its worst flaw is that the reload time is a little bit slower than our standards, but since it has 60 bullets per mag, we can pretty much 1v5 without having to reload. Here's the gunsmith for the BP50. That about wraps up my top 10 weapon list for Call of Duty Mobile Season 10. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my picks, and be sure to share your own favorite loadouts. Before we go, check out this video on the left where I give you one essential tip for every gun in COD Mobile. It's packed with useful info that can instantly improve your gameplay. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.